Welcome to Tucson Luxe Living podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Vincent Enriquez, and we are going to be talking about the housing market in San Diego. Welcome to the show, Vinnie.
Thank you for having me, sir.
So you have been an agent in San Diego for quite some time now.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to talking about the market there. There are a lot of people from the greater Tucson area that spend time in San Diego. It is obviously one of the closest beach access points that we have within the United States, not talking about going down to like Rocky Point in Mexico. So I know I personally love the San Diego area. I am regularly having conversations with locals who are saying, oh yeah, I'm going to San Diego for the weekend, or, I'll be in San Diego for a week. So for those individuals who have a soft spot for San Diego, maybe they're thinking about buying a second home, a little getaway, retreat, or maybe they're just like, I've had enough of the desert and I'm packing up and I'm moving to the coast. Love to talk a little bit about the current state of the housing market, which, could change, obviously. So right now we're recording this. It is towards the end of April 2022. We're seeing a lot of crazy stuff happening yet again in the housing market with the interest rates going up considerably. But from your perspective, has the housing market in San Diego been pretty stable over the past couple of years, even with the pandemic and all of the things that are going on in the world?
Yeah. So with the pandemic, it actually did the opposite of effect of what I thought it would do. The government artificially reduced interest rates, and with the pandemic, people were scared to put their house on the market. So we had less inventory, more demand because of higher interest rates, and the market just went out of control. From January last year to January of this year, the market as a whole went up about 36%, somewhere in there. The median detached home market as of March 2022 was 975 in San Diego County. It's gone up fairly drastic, and it's made it a lot harder for first-time home buyers to purchase. There's still the ability, yet it's the values have really shot up to make it a lot harder for them.
Very similar to what we've seen here in the Tucson market. Same kind of scenario. People did not want to sell. They didn't have any place to move to. And, some people were uncomfortable having people coming into their homes, especially towards the beginning of the pandemic. We've had a lot of people moving in to the state as well, not only for jobs, but cost of living is obviously lower. So we've had an influx of people from California moving to the greater Tucson area. And that has also then made it even more difficult in terms of inventory and available houses, driving up the prices even more. And because we have so many people with cash, they're selling their, you've got a median income of almost $1 million. Whereas here it was in the mid 200s for a while. Now it's in the mid 300,000. So that's gone up over the past year. And, people are coming in, they've got cash to buy a home, and somebody who is a first-time home buyer or who needs, even conventional loans are easily getting beat out on a multi-offer situation because the cliche, cash is king, right? Mm-hmm. You can skip so many steps when you're paying with cash that it's very enticing to a seller.
Well, on two fronts. So something interesting while you were talking that it kind of made me think about, I remember probably midway through the pandemic, is, so throughout the pandemic, we've been roughly sitting about 103 lists of sold to, I think, last month it was like 107 lists of sold, or 106 lists of sold. But during like the midway pandemic, the condo market, the downtown San Diego condo market, was actually about like 96, 97% of lists of sold. It was the one market that people want to get out of because they were stuck in their homes. So I thought that was intriguing. And then you talk about cash, right? The whole, and cash is king. You have to look at it, I think, this way, especially people that have lived in a property for a long period of time, is the values have gone up so drastically, right? And you have to be very up to date on where the market is to know the true value of property. Yet you get an offer from an investor, a cash offer from an investor, and you go, oh my gosh, this is way more than I thought I can sell this for. Mind you, it's 20%, 30% under fair market value. Yet you're just so excited because it's gone up so drastically that you're like, I will take this cash offer. So even though you might be excited about the offer you're receiving, doesn't mean it's the most that you can actually put in your pocket.
Right. And that there is a distinction there, because when I'm referring to cash, I'm talking about people who they've listed with an agent. So they're getting multiple offers. They're getting the conventional, I'm paying with conventional financing, FHA. But that actually brings up another interesting point, because we've and I've heard it actually a lot. People are like, I'm literally getting called on the phone by agents who are like, hey, you want to sell your home because you're going to make a whole bunch of money, who are just looking to list it. But also investors, people like you said, who are coming in and they're, and now you can go on the internet and there's all of these home valuation, tools. And, some of them, if you're living in a neighborhood where all the houses are pretty much the same, those valuation models, they're fairly accurate. But now you start getting into a custom home, a luxury home, something that has maybe not a lot of comparable properties. Well, you're going to see a huge discrepancy in what, Zillow is saying your house is worth versus what your house really truly is worth and what the market is willing to pay for it.
Well, going off of the Zillow talk, right? I mean, because you go, okay, well, the estimate is going to be fairly correct. You have to think, there's a pretty solid case study showing that that's not necessarily the case. Zillow offers was pretty big in our market for a short window of time, and they lost massive amount of money on it because their estimates were off of what they could actually buy the property for and what they could resell them for. My eyes would light up when I would see a Zillow listing in the market, even with everything selling above list, because I knew they were probably overpricing it and they had the ability to basically buy below fair market value.
I just recently, so we have a couple of pretty nice, active adult communities here in the greater Tucson area. We attract a lot of people who love to retire here. It's a great place to retire. I do quite a bit in Saddlebrook, which is a very, very nice active adult community. And there again, a couple of years ago, a property would potentially sit for a couple months before it would sell. Now, same as everywhere else, there's just not enough inventory. And, in some cases, a property is on the market for a couple of days and it goes active, contingent, or pending. And there were quite a few houses that were sitting on the market longer than any other houses. Zillow, Open Door. We're seeing a lot of these other types of entities coming in and playing as, real estate agents, essentially, and you can see it's so interesting how these properties are sitting on the market longer and they're dropping. That Zillow property that I showed my client dropped, I think, something like $30,000, where everything else is basically just, getting scooped up And, it's newer. So there's always, a learning curve, but it's also creating, I think, a lot of confusion for agents and for buyers, because like, what, and then you've got these like open door making you sort of jump through hoops, and they want you to use their financing, and you're, just like a lot of new things that people have to navigate when we're dealing with these types of companies. So I'm curious, what are your experiences in San Diego?
Yeah, I mean, well, going to the Zillow thing, I mean, they were putting offers. I mean, I advised a couple of my clients that we had the property listed to actually get an offer from the Zillow offers. And twice out of the actual times we did it, they both came drastically above fair market value. And mind you, they're going to resell the property. One of the times they actually had to stop because they stopped their buying program in the process. The other one actually went through, and it was, I mean, a good experience, yet they way overpaid. On working with buyers, I mean, sometimes when you jump through a lot of hoops, most agents are not going to want to jump through those hoops, so it can be beneficial to do it. And figuring out, not every agent and every process is going to be the same. So have a game plan, have an idea that what is probably listed for the most part is not what it's going to close for. Yet, if it's one of those properties that is just basically putting on the market, putting a sign on the property, and then praying that it sells, then you could possibly get it for a little bit less than where it should be.
So for anyone who is thinking about purchasing in San Diego, you mentioned the median home price right now is just under.
Median detached home
Okay,
price.
so we're not
detached.
talking about condos.
Yeah. The condo market, I mean, it brings it down. The reason why I brought the detached aspect of it, because it's just wild in my head to think in San Diego that we're almost close to 1 million, that round number right there. I would say we're probably, as a whole, probably somewhere in the 800s. I don't have that precise. And I believe it's something for the attached. I think we're in the high sixes, I believe.
Got it. So, you're looking at a decent chunk of change, regardless of whether you're thinking about getting a, condo, a townhouse, or a single family home. You're obviously going to pay significantly more for something like that. And everybody, is pretty much aware of that. That's looked at housing prices in California. I remember back in early 2000, I moved from Wisconsin, which in central Wisconsin, I mean, housing prices are just like nothing compared to even Tucson, and getting renting a 2-bedroom townhouse, and the rent being almost $1,000 a month, which was mind blowing because, I mean, back then, going as a young woman, paying, a few $100s, there was a huge difference. And that was up in Sacramento. So I've sort of had my eye on the market. I then lived in just north of Los Angeles for a while, in the Ventura area along the coast. This was quite a few years ago as well. And just from when we lived there, which was maybe 6 years ago, to now, like the prices just exponentially higher. So watching the housing market in California is always interesting to me because it, it's right up there with like New York and Boston.
Well, and I think, I mean, as the market balances out and gets more stable, I mean, we'll see where the next few years takes us. I mean, I would think there'd be I mean, once we get to some sort of balanced market or close to a balanced market, we'll see some change in pricing. But during this window of time over the next, year, 2 years, whatever it might be, it'll be interesting to see what kind of creative financing starts coming about. Where you're talking about seller financing. I've heard lenders start pushing adjustables again. Higher down payment adjustables, and you're going to see a lot more people getting creative with high interest rates. Where I've had different lenders talk about rate could be in the sevens by the end of the year. So it's going to be interesting. So for anyone looking to buy or sell, it's really making sure that the person you're working with has your best interest in mind, because it's going to be easier, I think, to put people in scenarios that look good up front, yet maybe might not be the best in 5 years from now. So work with someone like yourself, Alicia, or if you're working in San Diego, looking at buying San Diego, give me a call. But I think it's going to be even bigger over the next couple of years.
What are you anticipating? And I know it's always a tricky question. We have to be so careful that we're not, making claims about the future, because the market could shift at any time in an unexpected way. But with the economy in its current state, are you anticipating foreclosures? Are you anticipating, seeing some changes in the market because of that?
Well, one of the interesting things I heard from someone was recessions or market corrections happen when people buy off of speculation, right? And I've heard the words more and more of every passing week, passing month, even passing day, of, hey, look what happened over the last year. Look what happened over the last 2 years, right? The values have gone up about X amount. So imagine what they're going to do in X amount of time, right? So pushing that agenda, pushing that idea to people gets you down a very dangerous road. So I could see, as the market cools a little bit, we're going to get more inventory, people still buying, and some people creative financing. There we'll start seeing the effects of COVID, because we really haven't seen it. I think we've been held back. The government has really kind of held back on foreclosures, at least in the San Diego market. So I think once we start seeing that stuff come fruition, we'll start seeing people getting worried a little bit, and people buying maybe a little above their means. So to answer your question, I don't think anything crazy is going to happen unless there's some kind of catalyst that I'm not fully aware of yet. And I think we're going to see some correction, but it's going to probably take a little bit of time to get there. The one thing is, the banks, I think, learned their lesson from 06, 07, that time frame. So I don't think it'd be hard for them to flood the market, because they are depreciating their own assets. So I don't know if we get the flood of it, but I think we'll get, a slow trickle of it.
So we're sitting in an interesting place. It's been an interesting couple of years for sure. And nothing is necessarily ever 100% stable. But there's a lot of differing opinions on what's going to happen. We'll just say that.
Well, and the funny thing is when 5 years from now, we have multitude of different opinions, but in 5 years from now, we're going to probably have 80% of the population saying that, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So there's indicators that we can look at, yet no one truthfully has that crystal ball, but some people are going to be right on what their assumption is.
All right, Vinnie. So let's share with the listeners how they can connect with you. So if they're looking for an agent to connect with in San Diego County, you're the guy that they can call. Can you share that information?
Yes. So the website is www.theenriquezgroup.com, ENRIQUEZ, or my cell phone number is 858-345-9700. 7829. Feel free to call or text with any sort of questions out this way.
Awesome. This has been a great conversation, short and sweet, and yet full of good information. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today, Vinnie.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. And thank you to all of our viewers. Make sure you subscribe, and we will see you in another episode.